called Ha'olikamoa, the happy chicken, usually didn't get too many broodies, thanks to nest boxes specially constructed so that the eggs would roll out of the nest boxes onto a little conveyor belt, which Saffron hand-cranked at least once a day and gathered the dozens of eggs to sell. But Cupcake had been quite determined. She had made herself a nest on the floor of the indoor run, tucked into a corner. She'd even convinced a few of her penmates to lay their eggs there and had settled herself in. Saffron wouldn't have minded, but the eggs weren't ever going to hatch. There were no chicks in them. Her only rooster, Curry, lived on the porch most of the time and only occasionally visited the first pen when she felt he might be in danger. None of the other eggs were fertilized. Cupcake, no matter her determination, could never get a chick out of an unfertilized egg. A broody hen, Saffron had learned, can be very stubborn. At first, she thought Cupcake would just give up eventually, but she didn't. In fact, she got so focused on hatching those eggs that she stopped leaving the nest to eat or drink. She started to grow thin. She was normally a fluffy chicken, a blue-laced red Wyandotte, with some of the most striking foliage on the egg farm. Each of her feathers was a lovely rust red, penciled around with a cool blue-gray edge. The effect was striking, intricate. When Saffron began finding those beautiful feathers scattered about, she knew she had to do something. Saffron read that a broody can actually starve to death if no action is taken, so she set about trying to distract Cupcake from her goal. But Cupcake, despite her name, was no pushover. She was tenacious. She ran back to the nest whenever Saffron moved her off of it. She built a new one if Saffron put her in a new pen. She wouldn't eat or drink unless Saffron was there beside her. The only thing that kept Cupcake from nesting was to bring her along on adventures to new places with new sights. Today's adventure was the carving demonstration. Saffron slotted the tip of a fine curved chisel into the groove she'd been making and tapped it with the mallet. A small curl of ochre wood peeled off, and Mano blew it away from over her shoulder. Saffron could see her latest row of cuts. The wood along that line was a shade lighter, an eggnog shade of beige next to the more Odie color from her earlier marks. It made placing her chisel for the next slice much easier. "You're doing great," Mano murmured. He was more reserved, more contemplative than usual. Saffron figured it was partly because of the cameras, but she knew it was also because he wanted so much to do well in this competition. She tapped the mallet against the chisel, feeling the reverberation of the movement in her wrist, elbow, and shoulder. Small taps, moving the tip of the chisel in the tiny space between each blow. The wood smelled bright and sharp. The breeze from the ocean next to them tasted sweet in comparison. She saw Cupcake taste a newly fallen chip and flick it away from her, shaking her head. She didn't like the taste of them. Saffron detected the slightest variations in the wood. Palm wood was like a bundle of fibers, and she could see where one ended and the next began. Saffron had what her friend the Empress called super sight, but what was really just an extreme sensitivity to color. She could see shades where others saw one flat hue, could see colors nobody else could see at all. It had started out as a curse, but here in the islands, working with her chickens and living among the bright island foliage, Saffron had found it useful more than once. Mano laid a hand over hers, and she realized that she had let her mind wander and gone a little crazy on the eyebrow she was working on. The tiki now looked slightly incredulous, with one eyebrow higher than the other. Carving, Saffron had discovered, was strangely meditative. Mano waved off the mistake. "We'll adjust it with this." He held up a blowtorch. Saffron, conscious of the cameras, widened her eyes at him and shook her head slightly to send him a signal that she wasn't good with open flames. Mano's eyes simply twinkled a degree brighter as he popped the trigger and a blue flame shot out like a scorching tongue. There was an appreciative murmur from the reporters. Saffron was seeing a new side of Mano, the showman. He ran the flame around the cavernous eye of the tiki, turning any space he touched a toasty gingerbread color. It added definition and clarity. "Some carvers," he told the cameras.